So when we launched the Global Lockdown Content Showcase, we really wanted to kind of celebrate brands that were creating value for audiences through being really creative and through the massive restrictions that lockdown presented. And I really genuinely think that the Jagermeister drop-ins campaign was one of the best examples of that. So really delighted to have you both here to talk about the concept and kind of how you went about it. It was not only was it one of the runaway winners for our showcase, but you've won a host of awards with the drum last week I saw as well. So congratulations for that. Great. If you could just start off by kind of maybe describing your roles at both Engine and Jagermeister.
Global brand manager of Jagermeister and basically responsible for everything that concerns global brand strategy and brand communication. We're a bigger team that is focusing on brand management and digital marketing. So I'm more the guy who starts with the strategy, like where is our brand at the moment? Where do we want to be in 10 years? What's the transition we need to make? And then I'm closely working with our team also in digital marketing, which of course is our most important communication channel. So that's why we want to bring them closer together, strategy and then the execution. So that's also been a great project here with Save the Night and also Meister Drop-ins to not only have a global strategy but also have a global execution in the end.
At Engine, Engine, for those who don't know, is a independent integrated marketing agency with offices all over the world. But I obviously work from used to work from the London office, now work from home. And we are, my role, I guess, I sit alongside the advertising team, and my focus, I guess, is working with teams to really help understand how we can produce truly audience-focused content, content which adds value to the consumer's life, and ultimately, from a brand perspective, drives value through increasing the time spent with brands. And again, there's no better example than Meister Drop-ins of that.
Great. So let's start with that then. So what's the main concept of Meister Drop-ins?
It's probably best if we start, if we rewind a little bit and start, I guess, and Bennett, I don't know if you want to sort of touch on the background from a brand perspective, and then I'll actually jump into the execution.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we've quickly found out most of our content is mostly high energy in clubs, bars, dancing situations, high energy situations. And we've immediately felt, okay, we lose the relevance with our audience because once they're in lockdown, they have to stay at home. They can't consume shots at the bar. Our content is just not connecting. So we had an issue ourselves, like how can we create relevant content? And then, of course, we immediately felt or got the responses from our closer networks, so the bartenders, also our bartender program like Hubertus Circle, but then also beyond, like that there is a huge thing, a huge problem, and we didn't want to just donate money and then nobody hears of us again. And also we feel responsible for the entire nightlife. That's in our mission to make sure every night of our consumers turns into a best nights of their life. So we wanted to see the bigger scope and also wanted to do something for consumers. That's what I mean with relevance. If we give money to bars, we don't help the consumers yet. And that's why we wanted to have a holistic, integrated approach. And maybe that's the point where I hand over to Dave.
Yeah, and I think that the key to this, the key to the success, I think, is that the fact that we already had that mission. So that as Benny mentioned, that ambition to create the best nights of people's lives, has been a fundamental part of the brand for many years. And ultimately, Jagermeister is a brand built from the night. That's the nightlife culture is the origin of the brand. So that really helped us when we got to this lockdown situation, because we had, I guess we had the building blocks. So we had the mission. We'd also, the brand had spent, and all the local markets had spent many years building up a network of what we call Meisters. You could shorthand them as influencers. They are by definition influential within their areas. They are the masters of what they do. And there's a very, very diverse group of Meisters. So I think, again, it's an advantage for us that we weren't a brand that just very narrowly targeted a certain passion area and said, right, electro DJs. What we had was mixologists, we had street artists, we had designers, we had photographers, we had DJs, we had singers. So we had this global network of Meisters. And to Benny's point, we had this duality of a problem. So we were there sort of saying, right, okay, not only can our consumers not go out and consume the product and have a good night, have that great night, but also we've got this network of Meisters whose livelihoods have been crippled. So effectively what we had was a supply and demand issue. We had a huge supply of people who weren't able to generate income through that for their livelihood, and we had a huge amount of demand. So actually, it was one of those sort of eureka moments. I think we were probably on a Zoom call when we had it. That actually, if we could find a way of marrying that global demand with that global supply, we potentially had something really interesting. And then when you layer that onto the insight that we'd seen what had been happening in China, where obviously China was not quite 6 months, but 4 or 5 months ahead, if that's the right way of framing it, in the COVID experience. We'd already seen this phenomena of cloud raves in China. So you'd already seen people getting together on Zoom calls, on Teams calls, on whatever, with their mates to try and socialize in a new type of way. So there was this interesting phenomena happening in China. And it was beginning to come through. If you remember back to the beginning of lockdown, you were starting to have people do quizzes and things like that and getting together because they were locked down. So that's kind of where Meister Drop-ins was born, and I'm sure we'll get on to how we made it happen, but essentially, that what we had to do there was work then at speed to actually realize that idea, make that a reality, and then deliver it, because clearly, I think we were all unsure about how long lockdown would carry on, but we knew that if this was going to be effective, if this was really going to capture the imagination of the global audience, it had to go live pretty quick.
Yeah, and you mentioned it was obviously a global audience. I mean, it was a global initiative, which is quite a feat. I mean, how did you go about actually building that global platform? What were the practicalities of it?
And maybe if I touch on the sort of tech side, and Ben can talk about markets, because I think they're the two biggest challenges. So technically, we're lucky that part of the DNA of Engine is that we have small teams that work with clients, but we have much wider teams of specialists who we can pull in on a case-by-case basis. So we're lucky to have a fantastic head of creative technology and technology team. And actually, so Kim was brought on board into the very small project team right from day one. And actually what we did was we worked with, whereas you might prototype something in a traditional sense with traditional timelines, just to establish whether that prototype can work, what we had to do was prototype a solution which could then go on to live as the platform. So we built, after presenting, I think we had a prototype of the site live in about 48 hours, which we used as a sort of proof of concept, but that went on to become the platform. Now, there was a lot of technical stuff, which I don't understand, if I'm honest, but making sure that was, it was a scalable platform, that it had security was a huge issue. So we had to make sure that it had all the security protocols in place. And as the idea grew as well, we had to change things as we went on. But again, I guess the key thing from a technical perspective is having everybody on board with the project, having the right, having the technical stakeholder engaged in every single conversation. And then it was just really working at speed. But so I think technically it was, we certainly had to sort of test and learn, but really it was about just having everybody involved in the project working together on a daily basis to get that first iteration of the site live. But then, of course, markets is the other challenge. So it was one thing having the technology, there's the other thing, which is, a big part of Benet's global responsibility is actually bringing the markets on the journey with you.
Yeah, I'm really interested to know more about that. How do you actually manage that kind of global perspective? And obviously it's very much a cultural initiative that you were doing. How did you manage to make that resonate in different local markets as well?
Yeah, that was quite a load of work, but it was at that moment fun because the markets were asking us for what can we do now, and we had at least one, and then further solutions would also come in the whole umbrella of Save the Night. But we had a really smart idea in place, and I think why it did work this well globally was just the case that it was easy to localize the assets. It was easy to individualize. So we didn't say only DJs, only bartenders, but basically whatever is your close network of creatives, please get them involved, get them on the platform, give them a stage, give them a chance to interact with an audience. And of course, we had the luck to get a bit of a global budget that we could shift into the market. So basically, we gave budgets to each market that wanted to participate. And we said it's mandatory that 100% of the money goes into the artist. So whatever budget you have in your market for media or for, you know, any videos, any cool stuff, do it. But the budget we give to you, I want to see that 100% of it goes to the artist because we want to help now. And another good thing was, of course, that we said the brand that is in focus now is Save the Night and not Jagermeister. So I think also the buy-in of the Meisters, which we call how we call our creatives, was pretty quickly done. They knew I don't have to drink Jagermeister in this video, but they give me a stage where I can just be myself, connect with an audience. And of course, also I get a fee for it. So it's not only like for free, but basically I can pay my living costs with that. So I think in general that resonated pretty well, that we not only donate to one organization or to a specific target group, but really give direct support to artists. And it's rather, you know, creating value, creating opportunities than just throwing money and not expecting anything. And what we got out of it is that each Meister used his own social media, his own channels to kind of promote his drop-ins, to promote our platform. And so out of an urgency and not even thinking that far, we created a great micro-influencing campaign, basically, because it was not us saying you need to go to savethennight.com, but it was each creative himself talking to his network saying, please go to savethennight.com, support us, me and other artists, by booking a drop-in or by finding out more about Save the Night. And yeah, just, you know, market by market, we've got more and more markets involved. It was fun because it was, you know, it was a good framework to play, but it was still, it had enough flexibility and room to localize. And yeah, meanwhile, I think it's 28 markets participating in drop-ins. We're not done yet, so let's see what happens next year. But in total, in the Save the Night campaign, and I've just updated the numbers yesterday, we are at 61 countries who are involved in the campaign. And in the history of Jagermeister, there was nothing yet that close to that number, as global as that. So it's a big milestone for us in the company. And I think, as with lots of other developments in the latest months, probably Corona was just an amplifier to bring us closer together and to work together. Our history was more markets working on their own, and now we all came together and worked on one big mission, which was a great result, even though, of course, it is hard times for us. We need to be honest with that.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I mean, and the power of network is a great example of. How many Meisters have been involved so far? I mean, you probably don't know the exact.
I know he's probably got the latest numbers. It goes up every time I see it.
Yes, you know, I'm doing presentations all day, so I always have numbers. No, it's more than 1,500 artists for now that are involved in Save the Night. So of course, we also had micro-funding projects, for example, where fundings go to artists so they can realize the projects. So buying material or just renting a space out, also that kind of stuff. But yeah, 1,500 artists. I think the latest number was that we had, I think, 1,600, 1,700 drop-ins. So we don't know how many people were in each drop-in. So also it happened there are drop-ins with just one person, but also drop-ins we saw with 120 people in one Zoom. So it's kind of a surprise. It depends on the consumer who books the drop-in and who is responsible for inviting his friends. So we can't really say a number of consumers we've reached in this very exclusive, highly engaging environment. But yeah, I think 1,700 drop-ins is quite a lot. And it's still a start. So we're not, as long as Corona is there in place, we will continue to offer solutions to our network.
Fantastic. I was going to ask, what kind of legacy has it created? Do you think it's something you'll carry on post kind of lockdown era?
Yeah, that's the right question, and definitely that's our ambition now. because it is a turf that where naturally Jagermeister fits in pretty well. You know, people don't drink us in the afternoon or on the couch, but it's rather a high energy nightlife occasion. That's our reality where our product is consumed, but that's also what people associate with our brand. And I think with the approach, and we have the luck, also before Corona, we had the luck to have a very strong network of creatives, DJs, fashion designers, lots of creative people. And yeah, our mission is to really own that spot of nightlife and to be there for nightlife on long term. So even if there's no crisis, there will always be issues in nightlife. If that's, you know, gentrification, diversity issues, sexualities, all these topics, they're out there. So societal topics, we really want to make sure the nightlife becomes a better nightlife, and that this is not only a crisis response. Of course, crisis made us start doing something. So basically, it is our first steps in brand activism, to be honest. And now we are exploring how can we further make an impact in nightlife and basically put our mission, best nights of your life, into practice. So we preach it, we don't practice it. And now we have a strong purpose platform with Save the Night where we can really go into action, support. And I think one thing I like to say, it's not only about preserving and helping, but it's also about co-shaping and re-innovating. So it's not only, you know, there's people in trouble and we give them money and help, but also together we want to create solutions and look at how does the future of nightlife look like? How can we just make nightlife a better place? So not only, you know, giving money and the problems will always be there, but solving the problems.
Yeah, and I think Benny almost did himself a disservice there by sort of saying by luck that we had this community, and I think that's a really important point, that it you know, it wasn't luck. You know, it was many years of understanding that nurturing those kind of relationships with creatives, this hugely diverse community of creatives. You know, clearly there was it wasn't done because we knew what was going to happen in the future. You know, it was done because we understood that already pre-COVID, you know, nightlife was under you know, myriad challenges, you know, be that gentrification, whatever that should be. So it was already something that was already a big part of the discussions that we were having from a brand perspective. And again, so, you know, so that wasn't, you know, it wasn't luck, you know, it was, you know, a brand really understanding how it needs to nurture those kind of relationships, and how, you know, altruism to some extent was always going to be a big part of the sort of DNA of the brand. And, you know, even to that point of ensuring that the money that the global team were investing every penny of that went to Meisters locally. You know, that again, I can't think of, you know, I've worked on many spirits brands, and I can't think of many brands that would have taken that approach and been willing to make that direct investment, you know, ultimately at the expense of paid media support, which, you know, you might say, well, put that all into media and get it out there, what we're doing. This wasn't about us. This was actually tangibly, genuinely about helping the community. And that definitely has laid the foundations for the next stage of this. So this isn't a tactical campaign. So this becomes a fundamental part of who we are and how we activate our brand mission. And as Benny said, you know, that through that lens of brand activism and actually what our role is going to be in that. And yeah, exactly. Not just about harking back to let's preserve what was here, but also let's be a part of establishing what this looks like moving forward for a new generation.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think you've earned your kind of, you've been living your brand values up to this point, which enabled you to then launch this with integrity, instead of kind of jumping on any kind of bandwagon. And I think the brands that have done well, the most great work out of this, are those that have done exactly that. So tell us about like the results you've seen. What kind of engagement? What kind of numbers in terms of reach? What have you seen?
Well, I'm sure Benny's got all the figures to hand. I'll probably get these wrong. But
it'll be changing every day.
Well, it is. I mean, I saw some yesterday that I hadn't seen. But I think I think for drop-ins specifically, Benny, and you might correct me, I think we're about 400 Meisters on the drop-ins platform specifically now. And I think if I go back to describing what I do with an engine, you know, we talk about helping drive and grow meaningful time spent with brands. I think the last count I saw, we were about 37,000 hours spent on Jagermeister drop-ins. So, you know, as I said, there is no better articulation of that value that we can drive by creating these immersive brand experiences than sort of 37,000 hours spent with the brand and with our Meisters. But Bennett's probably got some other stats in terms of impressions and page views, and that we might be able to share.
Yeah, so only taking the traffic on our organic channels, on our own channels, we had a reach of almost 400 million users, which is, of course, a great result, and also a great result concerning, the cooperation of all the markets. So it's not only our global channel, it's not only a specific market, but basically all the markets did a great job in spreading the message. What we could not measure yet, and that's a good learning for us, is we could not really measure and track down the traffic or the engagement that was created through our Meisters. So we've seen, Meisters with 1 million followers, with 400,000 followers who are just naturally wanted to join and be part of it. Yet we can't look into their accounts yet. There are tools to do that, and that's a big learning for us. This artist management, which was always done locally, how can we find one global tool to really build up the relationships and also look into numbers and the output that we get? And of course, another learning is, the budget that we spend out for media. How can we bring seeding budget into the accounts of our Meisters? Because the most authentic way to tell our story is let our Meisters tell the story and not Jagermeister or any other brand. So that's a great learning. On the website, in terms of traffic, we had more than 260,000 visitors. I think a booking rate of 89%. So most of the artists who offered drop-ins were booked out. So, which is also important for us. We don't want to offer something and nobody uses it. So that's a very important number to us. And what else numbers can I tell you about? Yeah, I think it's 28 markets involved, 1,700 drop-ins so far. And also we had, some, I think, most diverse talent involved. So from DJ, beatboxing, van lifers, social media consultants, rappers, singers, artists, fashion designers, sneakers designers. So basically everything, magicians, everything you were looking for that is somehow entertainment or education. We had it on our website, and whoever wants to have a look into it, it's a nice filter function, and on our website savethennight.com you can just see how much different stuff from most different countries is available there.
Yeah, and there's some lovely stories about sort of quirky stories that we've sort of dug out through the period we've been live as well. Whether that's, I think we mentioned, 92 people was the most people we had on one drop-in with a guy called Kid Super, who's one of our Meisters from the States. We had another one which was amazing, where 24 people joined a drop-in by a South African producer called Muzi, and together they created a track which is now officially released off the back of that. So there's some great, lovely little anecdotal stories of what people have achieved together. It's not just simply a classic sort of having a DJ play a set or learning how to produce a great cocktail.
Brilliant, love it, absolutely love it. So what's next? What's the next phase of development, can I ask, if you can share?
Well, I think we've sort of touched on it really. We're working on now, as we move into 2021, what the next evolution of Save the Night is, and what it means, and how it plays a more central role, and we sort of build on the traction that we've achieved with markets. I mean, I think we're probably not at a stage where we can specifically say what we're doing yet, but Ben, I mean, you might.
Yeah. So we had, I mean, like at this moment until now, we've talked only about Meister Drop-ins, which is one of 6 concepts within Save the Night. And that's kind of also the problem. Everything had to be done quickly. I think we launched Save the Night within 2 weeks, within 14 days, which has been absolute sprint mode and completely unusual for Jagermeister everyday life. But that's kind of the speed we put into there. But of course, we didn't really come up with a structure, but just with solutions. And that's kind of the work we're doing now to tell the bigger story of Save the Night. So we know what drop-ins is and how it helps. We know that there's microfundings and that it supports local, smaller creative projects. And our task now is to tell the idea of Save the Night. And also, as we just discussed earlier, how can Save the Night on long term help to make nightlife a better, safer place? And yeah, that's kind of our next part of the journey, to tell that story, to have a little informational campaign saying what Save the Night is. And of course, we're looking into, you know, learning or improving from our learnings and making drop-ins even more relevant, making microfundings even more relevant also for us as a brand. And I think we have to consider the Corona reality. So it can change every week. And at the moment it is lockdown again, which is good kind of for the drop-ins concept, because people are at home, it is winter, it's cold, they might sit at their laptop anyways. But yeah, we just need to be ready for the times when lockdown is loosening up, people can move, they will not sit in front of their laptop. Maybe people can go back to bars, restaurants, and for us as a brand also, we need to make sure, how can we also make that last link back to the new normal? So how can we also drive consumption? In the end, of course, we are not a charity company yet. Of course, it is our honest interest to support nightlife, but yet at some point we need to bring that link back to our product. So what role does our product play? And of course, we're not saving a night to just support, but also we want to save the night, make it a better place. So at some point, people can go back to consume Jagermeister, have a great time with friends, and everybody involved in that nightlife journey. So if it's consumers, if it's bartenders or DJs, musicians, they can all they cannot go back to normal, but back to better nightlife. So that's our ambition with Save the Night. And what can I say? Yeah, we're definitely further continuing to work with all our markets and also to extending. I think some markets did not yet really get or understand the potential behind it. So at this moment, it's very easy for us to sell into further markets that can be involved. But of course, what also will happen now is that we're looking at, you know, bigger ambassadors, so bigger artists or creatives that can really help us spread that message. So it is not easy, because we are looking towards those artists that having an honest interest in helping. So if we want to help nightlife, we can't afford spending huge money on big artists, but we're really looking for those guys within our network with a bigger reach that can help us get more awareness for the smaller artists, because these are the ones that need the support, and that can also help us, you know, get more consumers involved. There will be probably another, like one of our concepts was the limited edition bottle, and this is, you know, a very good concept to get consumers involved. If they buy a bottle, they have an active participation in saving the night. And this is also something we're looking into for next year. So not only us helping, but involving our community, involving our consumers. And I think, again, that's kind of a first step in brand activism. The more we have a value-based connection with our consumers, we want to save nightlife, they have an interest in saving nightlife, the more loyal consumers we have, and also the bigger the impact we can make, not only as a brand, but as a network of consumers, brand, and partners. So yeah, we're looking to amplify in terms of, you know, reaching more people, getting more people involved, but also helping more artists.
Great, thank you very much. And just finally, have you got any, from what you've learned from this experience, which has been like accelerated in terms of execution, are there any lessons that you would share with any other brands that are looking to maybe go into that kind of brand activism kind of area?
I think there's definitely lessons that we learn in making this a reality. First of all, you know, I think we had an advantage that obviously we have a global remit, working with the global team, BCMA and the global team out of Germany. So we're in London, so we already had a long distance relationship, as it were. You know, we'd obviously in the old days we would meet face to face occasionally, but the majority of our working relationship was in all honesty Zoom and Slack. You know, so I think we had an advantage in that sense, that we didn't have to change the way we worked. So that certainly made the realization of Meister Drop-ins a lot easier. I think also, you know, as with any great agency client relationship, that trust, and that that understanding of each other and the capabilities and the ability to deliver against what you're promising. And also, to be fair to the team at Jagermeister, obviously one of the virtues of being a family-owned business, there is that capability to, when you have to move, I think probably discovered during this project, when you need to, you can move at real speed, because you haven't got as many layers of sign-off to overcome. So there's definitely an advantage in that. One of the challenges with that, though, and I hope Benny wouldn't mind me saying this, is how you keep up that pace, how you don't sort of revert to that the sort of more traditional ways of working. But I think that's true about absolutely every brand. And in terms of brand activism, I think it's we're on that journey now. We are looking at how we build on this, but I think it has to come from the right place ultimately. I think if you go into a strategy which is rooted in an idea of brand activism, you've got to be true to it. You have to walk the walk, because if you're going into it purely thinking on purely on a commercial level, that consumers are going to see through that. There has to be, it has to be part of the DNA of your brand. It has to be part of everything you do. You've got to be true to that awful word, but true to that sort of authenticity of the mission. And Ben, I'm sure you got things to add to that, but I think that's probably the biggest learnings from our side.
Yeah. So in terms of brand activism, I mean, like, the consumers are pretty smart at this time, and they have kind of a bullshit radar. So it's super important to just find your natural environment. So where am I as a brand and as a product, and to stay true to that. So in brand activism can quickly go wrong if you try to do something that people don't feel it connects to your brand. So it feels like you want to make advantage of something that doesn't fit to you. So that's also why we have been not too intensely going into this field, because we are at this stage just exploring what really naturally fits to us, and what authentically fits to us. And at the other side, so that means also, speaking out of a purpose, speaking out of your natural environment, out of your passion points. And I think that's the learning we've made. We have a strong purpose that builds way beyond our product, and we've now finally, it was important because product was not relevant. So it's, for us, always this balance: how much product, how much purpose. And in the past, it was always more product, because product directly connects to sales. And I think this opened the eyes also for lots of people outside of our marketing to say, what, it's good that we have a purpose, and it's good that we stand for more than just a product, because especially in these times, and now in future brand activism, we can go into further topics. And of course, every brand needs to realize, how much political do I want to get, or is it more, some societal topics like diversity, like saving the nightlife, basically, could also be something of interest for the society, where I can step in. And as you said, learnings, I think crisis, and we, like at the beginning, we just looked at, what are kind of insights from past crises, and it is, for marketers, a clear rule: if you disappear during crisis, consumers, they will forget about you. Partners will find other partners who are there for them. And it's basically the time to actually dial up your marketing and become even louder. And that's what I've experienced a lot now, that quite some other brands did not have the guts to just do something and help. And let's see what the results will be. But we see that there's a high appreciation from our bartenders, from our artists and consumers, that we became even louder, and we came up with solutions. And we didn't just donate some money to somewhere and it's gone, but really, we're interested in long-term solutions, long-term entertainment. And don't fear to fail, but everybody keeps saying that, but we didn't do everything right in the beginning. So we went through days and days of learnings and failure and making it better. And even until today, if we're true to ourselves, it is not perfect yet. And also the Save the Night umbrella is there. We have different concepts, but we didn't nail it yet. But in the end, we didn't have time to wait and to discuss, but we just had to try out and do. And I think we got rewarded for having the guts and, just being open to fail, and then, create learnings and become better. So that was a good time for us. We created so many learnings during this intense time, and yeah, we want to continue also because we know we can do it even better. But it's all good. Also good to see what other inspiring, innovative stuff is happening out there. So of course, I hope we did something right here. But I think in general, to speak about this crisis time, so much innovation happened, so much pivoting happened, and it's just a fun time to just watch what brands, companies, people are doing, and it's a highly inspiring time. So let's hope we all keep innovating and keep pushing that.
Great. I mean, congratulations on it. It really is great, and you've obviously created a legacy. I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops further.